Welcome back to the Self Trust Solution Podcast. I'm your host, Dawn Lede, the Self Trust Coach. And today I am excited to be joined by Lynn Howard. Lynn is a business development strategist and fractional COO who helps founders, leaders, and executive teams scale with clarity, structure, and power. With more than 25 years of experience building and selling companies across 3 continents, she's known for turning chaos into execution, complexity into simple steps, and bold vision into real results. She's based in Bangkok, works with leaders around the world, and is also co creator of the Pursuit of Badassery, an ecosystem built for entrepreneurs who are ready to lead at a higher level and build something that lasts. I can tell you that this introduction doesn't even come close to the impressiveness of what Lynn is. But what I'm excited for you to hear today in this conversation is how Lynn's leadership didn't come from certainty or perfect timing. It came from repeatedly choosing to trust her instinct, invest in herself, and expand her identity before the evidence was there. Lynn, I'm so glad you're here. Well,
I'm so excited, Dawn. Thank you for having me.
yes. So give us, there's so much. So I almost hesitate to say a brief overview of your journey. But what I can say from what I know is that self trust seems to have shown up as a thread throughout your life and career. So maybe you could just describe for us that thread.
Yeah, I will say absolutely. I feel like it's definitely been a journey that I've been on in a conscious way ever since I can remember, even as a young kid. And I think that that definitely comes from my intuition and having a upbringing like I did. But if we fast forward it when I started working and started doing different things, it was really like I've always been such a doer. I've always been a person who will just make things happen and a performer, and not in a theatrical way, but like I show up, I make things sure things are done, get done. I've always carried the weight of the responsibility for everybody else, but I've had to lead with myself through that intuition and trust my gut and trust my instincts because I didn't necessarily have people leading me in the right ways. I didn't have good examples around me for a very long time, and I definitely, was always, as we like to say, a horse of a different color. And so, being around people who didn't really uh, who couldn't really advise me, if you would. So that self-trust, throughout my life and through some very, pivotal moments on a personal side as well, has just been absolutely a game changer for me and, for my career, but also for my life, I would say.
Yeah. So self trust for you is almost born out of necessity, out of a
Mhm.
lack of being able to not necessarily trust no one else, but just not having someone when it comes to what you wanted to build or what you were being called forward to in your life, not an example necessarily to follow. So you had to become that example.
Yeah, as a child, definitely, and I mean, I wrote a book about it, so about the personal stuff, but, so we can dive into whatever, but absolutely, it was a survival mechanism, but
Mm,
also on top of that, it was, you know, being so young and having the intuition and kind of I always felt my spidey senses that I've had in really strong and kind of push them down, but that that ability to be able to say, I'm not crazy. My instinct and my instincts and my gut is correct. And really having to redirect myself to trust that and trust myself. Because like you said, there wasn't those people around, but also the adverse is like the people that were around weren't really supportive in a way that gave me hope or direction or anything like that. And in business, fast forward when I was a single mom of young kids and, it was this kind of marker again where, I had the weight of the world on my shoulder by choice and by decisions I made. I do not place blame on anyone else. And it really was this like moment where I'm like, okay, like I have to show up in a way that is going to be influential for my kids as a young mom and as a single mom and show them different. And I had only myself. And so again, it was like, okay, I have to trust myself. And even though I was kind of an entrepreneur at that time, but I had professions or jobs, I'll say, not professions. But it is so woven throughout my whole life. You know, when you gave me that question, I was like, I cannot pin just one. I mean, I have moments in my
Yeah.
profession, in my personal, but definitely it's I think a part of who I am.
Yeah, well, one moment that really probably called on you to I don't wanna use the word question, but to engage and consider, how strong you wanted to trust yourself was when you were given the opportunity to purchase a franchise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is many years later and I had owned and actually had sold a couple of companies by then.
Mm,
And I was already pretty much doing I was about to go through a divorce and I had three, again, single mom, because he was out of country, three kids, teenagers in the household. And I was also always putting everybody first. Although I was quite the hustler, I was quite the doer. I was running an organization, a networking organization in the Hawaiian Islands. And I had this opportunity about buying this franchise. And it was something I was already doing. Um, Instinctively, and I had this opportunity, and I remember I had to go to California, and I had to do some things, and I was almost talking myself out of it because I was like, "Who am I to, take this time and go to California and, do all of these things while my kids are at home, while I have all this responsibility, while I have all of this." And an a voice, actually, I heard it outside of my head and was like, "Who are you to ask people to trust you and to honor you if you can't trust yourself? If you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect others to believe in you?" And it was such a pivotal moment that I was like, "Oh my gosh." And it was actually the start of really me saying, "You know what? I got this." Like, and how I found out, if I can back up, how I found out about that franchise, because remember, I'm a doer. Like I see a need and I'll dive in and do it. And as a area director for this networking organization, I won't name if unless you want me to, but I had really turned around this chapter and actually a couple of other chapters and helped another one launch. And these people would come from Florida every year to Hawaii. And one year they came the year prior and then they came that next year and our chapter was huge and we were passing millions of dollars in business and all this other stuff. And they were the ones who said, "What are you doing that that's making these chapters grow?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What am I doing?" They're like, "No, obviously you're doing something." And it was just this like this interesting kind of moment. So then I found out about the franchise, et cetera, et cetera. And it was like everything that I was doing, it was just like, I'm already doing it. And why can't I trust myself or really like believe in myself to step up and do this? Because I'm already doing it. And it's interesting because we tend to downplay things, at least some
yes.
of us, but just like cover things, especially those of us that are doers, right? That don't need all of the I can lead from a stage, but I don't want all of the hoorah and like that attention and stuff. And which is quite funny when people find that out because of the stages that I've been on, but I don't like that. And so I'd rather just get it done. But the recognizing of like, I'm already doing it
Mm,
and I'm good at it. Why can't I see that for myself and see myself as this person who's absolutely capable and beyond?
yeah,
And so and trust that what I was doing before absolutely will be amplified because now I have a platform and frameworks to be able to move forward from it. It was absolutely life changing, and it really put me on the trajectory to be who I am today. I think I would have gotten this way, but to really be able to have that experience and purchase that franchise and have that like that inner voice to say, no, if you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect
Mhm.
others to believe in you? And so yeah, it was definitely a moment.
I'm curious what you said from that strikes me is doers, we do kind of put our head down and we just do like our reward is in the accomplishment, not in the kudos so much. I think there's a lot of us out there. And
There's a difference.
so I wonder if it's less about believing in yourself and trusting in yourself as just sort of forging forward and not taking the time to pause and see and to own what all that accomplishment actually means.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that that also, and I have done a lot of personal work. And so I understand. I mean, one, it's a behavioral style thing like that. I love people dynamics, and it's definitely a behavioral style thing, but it's also a learned thing and a survival mechanism, at least for me. And I think that that was one of the moments I had to look myself in the mirror, because we don't as doers and things. And it's, and I will say the mirror, quote unquote, but also like the physical mirror. And I actually remember going through this to recognize like who I am as a person and to trust that that's not going to, I mean, there's so many different layers of that self trust. Also, trust that that's not going to go away who I am just because I'm stepping into something bigger, just because I'm daring to be more, just because I'm recognizing how far I've come or all the things that I've done. It doesn't it, it's the trust in like, I mean, there's so many aspects of it, but the trust in it definitely, a story line of mine was also that I wasn't a sellout, because of the changes that I was making and from my history and my past and my family and stuff. And so it's so multifaceted. It's kinda unbelievable. I mean, ever since I knew I was gonna be a guest on your podcast, like, it's really got me reflecting in this journey and, like, what self-trust was a part of and an influence
Mm,
in everything that has made me who I am.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
what would you say that was what you recognized about that in that reflection? Like, what did you notice?
Yeah, well, I noticed how multifaceted it is when we actually look at it through that lens, like,
Mhm.
really, um all the different aspects of the self-trust and what that can represent. Like, that was probably a big thing because like I said, I've done a lot of work, but I'm a reflector and I'm a questioner and I'm going to dig deeper because it's about really learning who I am and like the path that I've been on and digging into that and kind of the ripple effect of that. And
Yeah.
so I will say that that was probably one of the bigger ahas was like, "Oh my goodness," like all the different facets that in different positioning that the self-trust has shown up and played a part. Um, Also in the way that I have embodied others to have that. And it really is an aspect of what we do in Badassery and in other parts of our business. And I guess I never really, because I am a doer, I never really like looked at it through that lens. I might have said it before here and there, but it really made me reflect on that. Um Also the the aspects of me where I've still seeked validation.
Mm,
It really made me start to kind of poke where I and there's different ways that I've done it, throughout my years, but also, because I'm still putting in the work to heal and let go and all the other stuff and like become. more and better of who I could be and who I am. But definitely seeing where I still had gaps in the self-trust and how that shows and the patterns. And it's funny because before we met, I actually had a conversation with my homeopathy doctor, who's also like my therapist. And it was I saw old pattern that was repatternizing in some of the communication that I was having with different people. And when when I booked this, podcast interview, that was one of the things that came up is like, "Oh my gosh, like, I'm babbling just because I'm needing that validation. I'm not trusting myself in who I am, and why is this? Like, why?" And so it really got me to kind of, like, dig behind, where I'm still seeking validation and, in different aspects of my life and business. And so it's been interesting to
Yeah.
really just kind of say, "Hmm, let's look
Yeah.
at that."
I think it's important too, though, to differentiate between like seeking validation in a way that eclipses our own versus just liking it. Like, we can seek validation from others if it's coming from, in my opinion, I'd love to hear what you think, but it's a very human thing to want to enjoy validation, to seek it. And honestly, in business, there is a component of that that we are always going to seek because it's comes through people working with us and seeing our work uh,
Absolutely.
as valid and, appropriate for them. But I would love for you to talk about that if you do see a difference, in normalizing seeking validation, but also separating the difference out between the validation that you may wanna work on versus the validation that is just kind of natural and part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I'm aware of the difference between the 2.
Yeah.
So I agree that we definitely need that. And there is aspects of, hey, look at me, even for those of us who aren't a hey, look at me, and definitely in entrepreneurship, there's but especially in our line of work, we have to put ourselves out there so that there is that. Otherwise, we wouldn't get clients. You're absolutely correct. Um, and then there's those where we might feel like we have imposter syndrome, or we are having imposter syndrome, or we're feeling less than, or we are in front of somebody we really respect, and maybe we're doing it from a place of almost fear, versus empowerment. And I think that that's kind of um where the difference lies, is that, you know, and again, I've done a lot of work, so I'm really aware, and like I said, there was these particular moments where I was over explaining or talking too much, and I knew, and it with a certain couple of people, and I knew that I was doing this for a type of validation.
Mhm.
In the moment, I didn't know that, but afterward, did. I was like, because I'm like, why would I say, why would I do that? And I realized like that's what it was. And it is, it's I need to trust like who I am and
Yeah.
how they see me as well, because they respect me. They look at me in a certain regard, that at a pedestal, right? That we put people up on, that we respect, etc. And there was a disconnect in me trusting that, and me
Mm.
trusting, who I am in their eyes, but also who I am in the big scheme of things as well. Especially when we really respect that individual and look
Yeah.
at them as in a high regard. And I mean, some of us do it kind of blanketed,
Mhm.
but I know my situation was definitely a couple of individuals, but it was also something I was going through. It's interesting because, like you said, you've done a lot of work, I've done a lot of work, and we can still get into these patterns no matter how much work we do in whatever arena. But with this one, with the self trust arena, you know, it's we still have it's still a skeleton in our closet because we maybe at one point didn't trust ourselves, right? So it's always there.
It's a
That
practice is the way I think of it.
correct, but it's always there. It's something
Yeah,
that has been, and
yeah,
it's a practice to stay moving forward from it. Until I often say the skeletons are always going to be there. The difference is, are you leading or are they leading the
yeah,
dance? Like it's one or the other. And I think that, and it's not black or white. Like that can show up for some people that you're leading the skeleton, and maybe in another situation the skeletons leading you. And I think it's like, really being mindful of um, coming back to self trust and allowing yourself to navigate that
yeah.
in a way that's authentic for you, at least.
And I find it can be helpful to see that less about it's repeating old patterns as much as like you're hitting new edges. And when
Correct.
we hit new edges, we're reaching new levels of invitations for greater self trust and greater forward movement. It is going to mimic an old because
Correct.
we don't know the new yet. We haven't crossed it yet. And so it can mimic that, but you are definitely experiencing it from a more evolved, expanded space.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And I definitely, I mean, on the spiritual side, the whole evolution and the depending on what you believe in, but they say, every 7 years you kind of revamp yourself, etc. Or you start as a baby and then you get to the senior and then you have to start over as the baby again. And exactly that. It's like you're at a new level and it's still going to show itself, but it's a different way, and you're a different person
Yeah.
experiencing. But it's not, unless you choose to live in that old past and live in, but that's neither one of us, and probably not your listeners. So
Right? But it is easy, and I think that's why I love that this has come up because it's so easy. People often, and I hear this all the time, they think, "Why do I keep doing this? Why am I going back? Or why is this happening again?" It's like, it's not.
no,
It's
it's kind
happening
of like
newly, but that so the perspective there is actually the gift. It's like, yes, this is mimicking something, but I'm different. I am at a new level. So I can approach this. And I even like to take it a little bit further where if it seems like something from the past that I've worked through coming in, I receive it as a reminder of where I used to be and where I am now. Like, thank
I
you
love
for
it.
reminding me that that's where I used to sit all the time.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love analogies or like visuals. And, in life, we're like, we'll say we're climbing up these stairs, right? And every so many stairs, there's a landing. And then there's, climb up more stairs and there's a landing. And when you have that kind of, that skeleton show up, you might fall back to a landing, but you're not falling all the way down
Right.
to the bottom, right? So, if you feel like you're falling backwards, but really a lot of times we're falling forward, we just don't recognize it. We don't recognize it because it feels familiar of something in the past. And I love your reframing of it, of like, thank you for reminding me of where I used to be. I think that's really important to be able to differentiate as well, that you can own it differently, or you can allow it to just be a reminder, or you
Yeah.
can allow it to control you. It's
Yeah.
a choice. It's a choice.
Absolutely. And that's our greatest
Uh,
power is choice. And it's painful
Absolutely.
either way, right? It's painful either way. Those are very uncomfortable moments. So if you have to decide, you're gonna go through the pain either way. So why decide you're going backwards instead of like I'm painfully moving forward? That's your option there, right? Like
Yeah,
part of it.
absolutely.
This is just part of it. So
It's
you
part of
talked
growth.
exactly. You talk about reaching a point where your consulting business had credibility, but you felt the ceiling of being siloed as just you. And I think that's important for many of our listeners who are solopreneurs. If you can kind of take us back to that season and what did that look like? What was happening externally, internally?
I mean, I've had this in pretty much all of my businesses.
Mm,
And I can remember one of my first businesses where I needed employees. And actually, I had employees. I'll talk about a security company and then I'll talk about the consulting. But I had employees at the security company. I started a security company, alarms, burglar, fire, etc. Had a few other businesses as well at the time, but I ran it. I was the salesperson. I like kind of controlled everything. And I realized, like, holy crap, like I only have so much capacity and I'm raising kids. And really, as an owner, like, and I knew this as an owner, you can only take your business so far. It will start to plateau. You can't, I mean, you might be able to like nudge it a little bit more here and there, but you can only take it so far. You only have so much capacity. And that was my first kind of dipping my toe into the water, first getting my first personal assistant. I had virtual assistants for other companies, but a personal assistant, but then hiring a sales rep and then a manager outside of that. And our business doubled within a year.
mm,
And we were already making good money. And that was really incredible. So fast forward when I bought the franchise, it was a coaching, consulting, training kind of franchise, if you would. So we were learning about different programs we could teach, etc. And I remember sitting and having this kind of conversation with myself at one of the conferences before I had the conversation out loud. I'm like, if everything revolves around me to coach or to consult or to do these trainings, like, either I'm going to be charging hundreds of thousands of dollars to go through my course, which really isn't, with what we're being taught, isn't in alignment to do. And nor is it me to charge like that ridiculous amount. I'm not saying that some programs aren't worth it, but for what we were doing, or I need to bring on people to be able to do that. And so I started to bring on coaches and consultants underneath that umbrella. And it was great to have. First of all, having community is part of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need other people. But to be able to, even as a owner, like you still have different responsibilities as the owner. That definitely keeps things in check if you allow it to, but to be able to create a community and also empower people, and have that collective mind to be able to push you forward. And
mm.
also, we're not everybody's cup of tea as well. And so we're able to be more dynamic in the people that we reach. So fast forward when then I became CEO of that company and then I stepped down and I really that's when I went back off on my own, and Amanda, my business partners in Badassery, we were kind of like, we'll say it was COVID and we'd worked together before. I wanted her to come and actually take over my franchise, but when I left, I was like, no, because I didn't leave on good terms. The CEO and I get along. It is what it is, but, I knew that I always wanted to work with her, and so we decided to start the Badassery, and really that was, another game changer because I was able to take everything that we were learning and put it into the Badassery in a way, or everything that I'd learned, in a way that would be amplified and with a path to absolutely make it where we would bring on licensees, which we were talking about earlier, to be able to help and touch more people. So if yeah, so this has been kind of the trajectory of like bringing up people, trusting myself enough to be a part of that kind of process, but also, being able to pick the right people, but also being able to trust them and
Yeah,
pick people who can lean into that as well and trust me and build this like because it's hard to have partners. And, Amanda and I talk a lot about it. We've been partners for, going on 6 years now. And
mm,
we worked together before, like, I was her coach or consultant, and, we've been friends forever. Um, but there's a lot of interesting, dynamic when you have partners, and then you kind of expand. We have a pretty big global team now, um, but yeah, there was a lot involved of, like, redefining what trust means in a partnership and like understanding because
Yeah.
even though we're a lot of like, we might have different opinions or go to, have different ways of doing things. And like, there's a coming together of that. And, that's true in a physical relationship as well, and even a friendship, but in a partnership, because there's different things that are intertwined,
Mhm.
and being able to trust each other's vision. Like Amanda definitely trusts me for all of my things, and I trust her for all of her aspects of it. And so, yeah, that's the
Yeah. So,
badassery.
what would you say that you've learned about self trust through partnership?
Um, a lot. So self-trust through partnership is there's an aspect of that we have to separate because sometimes self-trust can also look like ego presenting itself in a partnership. It can in other places, but when we want it our way and we know that this is the way.
Mm,
So with self-trust, there's a there's give and take in a partnership. And so it's the self-trust in knowing that I picked the right partner and vice versa,
mm,
that we have the right frameworks and that we're able to work through it. So we have a really high level of communication, and like don't we know how to have that in difficult conversations. So trusting a lot of self-trust around like, I know what I bring to the table, but I also know what she brings to the table. Otherwise, we wouldn't be friends. We wouldn't have worked together for so long. So it's that trust as well, but also the trust that we can come together and that if for whatever reason that it didn't work or won't work in the future, that we'll be able to have that mature conversation
mm.
at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's not a one thing. It's like so many different aspects to it.
But it's beautiful because what you demonstrate is that self trust isn't about having to handle everything or know everything.
Right.
That is ego, right? That is control,
Absolutely.
often a lot of times fueled by insecurity, actually. So, self trust in partnership means being willing to ride the highs and lows with someone else, trusting that you're gonna be okay on the other side of it, trusting that you made the right choice in the partner, and then having those hard conversations if necessary, and not making every conversation hard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And more. I think
Yeah,
we can go on and on and on about that,
for
but
sure.
and more. I love the way that you recapped it.
It's so good. So tell me now, you work with founders, C-suite leaders. Kind of tell us a little bit about who you work with and where you see self-trust breaking down the most at those level of, leaders.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the badassery side versus the fractional COO. Just because that's different, but there's a lot of similarities. I'm assuming you mean where the self-trust is breaking down for them
Yeah,
or breaking. Okay.
yeah, where do you see that?
So
So, who they are and kind of where you see that breakdown
yeah.
or
So
opportunities. Yeah.
yeah. So the badassery side, yes, we work with entrepreneurs, founders, and depending on which program, it is global. And they can be anywhere from startup to 7 figures USD and plus in different programs that we have. Where we see the trust breakdown a lot is, it's in different phases,
Mhm,
but we see a lot of a couple of different points, we'll say, is the self-trust of taking that next step if it's a big leap or even a baby step and trusting that you got it, that
mhm,
you can do hard things, that the landing will be there. And so we see that when entrepreneurs like decide to be an entrepreneur, right? That first step of taking that leap. We see that when they're hitting their first comma club. So if that's, 10,000 or 100,000 or whatever that is, even sometimes their first 1,000, because some of the startups, that we work with, um, trusting themselves to stay working on their business and not just in the business.
Mm,
So they get busy with the busy work and they end up, and that's easy for them. And they don't trust themselves as business owners. They don't trust themselves as the entrepreneur. And in that mindset. And yes, they might not have learned it. It's kind of like, for those of us that have kids, like we weren't given, no matter how many books you read about being a mother, like you're not going to know what to do all the time. And so
mhm.
most of the time, and it's the same kind of concept. So,
Yeah.
and that again, both of those, it doesn't matter the industry, it doesn't matter the
Mm,
success that they've had, it doesn't matter how much is in their bank account. Everybody kind of feels that in different aspects of the evolution of their business.
yeah.
The trust of what you were saying before of like letting go of control,
Mhm.
finding the right person to be able to do the things and trusting that you make that shift from hiring somebody. Yes, you might be not bringing in as much into your personal account, but that you can amplify your worth by having more time to be able to do the things that
Mm,
actually make money. Yeah, I'd say, I know I named three of them, but I
yeah.
feel like we keep going on and on.
And what
I,
what many of those have in common, and I love that you bring this up, this is very, tied to the work that I do daily, is that identity piece, because when we're trying to make leaps as an entrepreneur, but still seeing ourselves as an employee, it makes it
yep,
really hard, and that's when we see the symptoms of the questioning, the jump, seeking certainty before, like, where we can't. We have to I see that a lot. It's like, I wanna know that this is decision is gonna lead to this result or I'm not gonna make it. Well, like, that's not how it works. Your certainty needs to come from you, and then you get the data from the result of that decision, and that's what informs the next decision, and we keep moving
yeah,
forward. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I like that you use employee. I'll also say the technician side. So for those that
Yes.
have read Myth, it's also because people are so great at their craft, and that's why they get into entrepreneurship, that they don't trust themselves in the running of the business side, the
Mhm.
managerial side, the entrepreneurial side. So I love that you brought up the employee, and it's also they see themselves in that kind of hamster wheel being an employee, but also the technition. And they're
Technician,
just
facilitator, yeah,
correct.
anything that is in just
I'm
the
good at baking
doing.
cakes. I'm
Right,
good at doing this. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at
right.
yes, you can be though. So trust yourself to like do hard things and learn a little bit, navigate it,
Yeah,
right? And because otherwise your business is hurting. You're either leaving money on the table, you're setting yourself up for failure, like all the things. And even at a because mind blowing. I've seen some really, really, really I've worked with some very incredibly successful businesses on the badassery side, but also on the C-suite side, but I just kind of shake my head. I'm like, how have you been so successful and still have these little hiccups that are just like, and a lot of it has to do with that self-trust of something
yeah,
of like that next level or whatever. And like, it's wild to me and how much more they could have, how much more
yeah.
they could be, how
I
much
see it
more.
in identity gaps and self-trust gaps, and I work with some really successful humans that are amazing that this is just scratching the surface, but to reach that next level, they have to stop seeing themselves as just a builder.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I will say, I will feel it will live with me and haunt me if I don't say is that, and not just their own self, but also I do understand because we surround ourselves with people and at one point they might be the right people and sometimes most of the time we grow out of that circle that keeps us
Mhm.
in this pattern as
Yeah.
well and it's And I'm not placing blame on the environment or the people around. It's just like we have to trust that we need to step out of even that comfort zone, business and personal, and sometimes family, to go and surround ourselves with a
Yeah.
new group of people, which could be very scary, but will absolutely help us in our growth, in our expansion, in our being of all that we're meant to be,
Yeah.
personally and professionally. And there's a lot of lack of trust in that kind of department as well, because they know who we are, that we know each
Yeah.
other. Yeah, we love each other. Like, I don't want to do this and that.
I
Yes,
think
but
it's discomfort intolerance. And one of the greatest things you can build as an entrepreneur is discomfort tolerance. Have
yeah,
to expand our discomfort tolerance. But to your
absolutely.
point, environment matters so much because we can't see what we can't see. And everyone we're surrounded with at our current level is holding us at our current level. We need someone that holds us at our next level so that we live into it daily. That's what we do
Yep,
inside Embodied Society. That's what I know you do inside the Pursuit of Badassery. Environment matters so much. Place
yep,
yourself in the spaces that elevate you to your next level before you're there. That's how you get there.
yep. I agree. I think, having self-trust is really built in you, and I think you've said it a couple of times. It's a muscle, right? We have to like continue to work it. But it's really built in the little small decisions that
Yeah.
no one sees, kind of behind the scenes. And it's almost, and I love strategy, but
Mm.
self permission or self trust is a permission. It's like it's your permission to be all the things that you can. It's clarity. It's being honest with yourself. Like it's really, and it's okay to be uncomfortable. Like you said, like I love the working the discomfort. I mean, you only grow in
Yeah.
discomfort opinion. And so I think, trusting your own inner and external voice and knowing through that all. And if you don't trust it, how can you educate yourself either through people or through books or through online or whatever to know more about that if you don't necessarily trust your knowledge doesn't mean that you're not trusting yourself but trusting your knowledge of such thing. And I think we kind of
Yeah.
group everything together, and
Gosh.
but it's really in the small little movements.
Yeah, we could talk about this forever because truly I believe that self-trust is a choice that you make and then you live in. You then you show yourself evidence through your actions. It's almost like success is the same thing. But it's there. You just choose it and then you do what it takes to get there, right? But
Yeah,
what you said that's so important is it is in these small decisions. And sometimes people can confuse a lack of belief. Like you don't fully believe yet. That's normal, by the way, right? Like that doesn't mean you don't trust yourself. It just means that you're going to trust yourself as you build the belief. And that's
yeah,
okay
as you
too.
build the knowledge, as you build the
Yeah.
asset, as you build the skill set.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So true. Okay. So tell us now about the work you're doing now, who you love supporting, and how people can connect with you and learn more.
Absolutely. So the Pursuit of Badassery, we have podcast books and obviously our program. So go ahead and go to YouTube and subscribe. Really stoked about we just hit 14,000 subscribers. So I know, very exciting and growing quickly. With that being said, who we work with is badass entrepreneurs who are tired of doing it alone. We have the 6-month accelerator that's an ecosystem, like you said earlier, for entrepreneurs that are global that want a safe space to expand, grow, but have the support and knowledge and accessibility through us and through our team members, etc. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I mean, that's what we do, and then
I love
also
it.
our 6 but that's for women only. But
Well, we're going to have all kinds of links for you, especially that YouTube channel. Congratulations on that. We'll have all of that in the show notes. Lynn, this has been such a fun and powerful conversation. I knew it would be. What stands out to me is the reminder that self trust isn't built by having everything figured out. It's built by making the decision, backing yourself, and allowing your identity to expand through action. And your story really shows what becomes possible when leaders stop waiting for certainty and start leading from their own clarity. So, thank you so much for being here and sharing your experience with us. Appreciate it so much.
thank you so much, Sean. I loved having this chat. I feel like we could talk forever.
We definitely could. And for those of you listening or watching, if something in this conversation resonated, I hope you'll take a moment to notice where you might already be ready to trust yourself more. If you have a self trust story to share, I'd love to hear it. And if you're ready to claim your own, I'd love to help you claim it. Visit theselftrustcoach.com or click the links in the show notes for details. And of course, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of the incredible stories ahead. See you next time.